The relationship between Amish and modern laws. The Amish are known for the simplicity of their life, unflinching faith, and strong adherence to tradition. Their picture is often equivalent to horse-drawn buggies and handmade quilts, a very peaceful image. But beneath this seemingly idyllic exterior lies a complex reality in which their deeply held beliefs and cultural practices sometimes conflict with modern laws. Though not deliberately defiant, some Amish groups inevitably come into conflict with laws as they have a culture so distinct from others. The built-in conflict between the past and the modern world is intriguing and paradoxical. The Amish commitment to the established practices passed down through generations often results in unintentional noncompliance with modern regulations, creating a dynamic relationship with the legal system that is both challenging and revealing of differing societal values and priorities. The approach they take will emphasize the problems in applying uniform legal frameworks across different cultural practices and beliefs. A reconsideration will have to be done regarding how the legal systems could accommodate and engage with minority cultural traditions without causing harm to the rule of law and public safety. The latent contradiction always tends to shine light on the more subtle nature of the dilemma communities living through an integration of cultural identity within a modern, more regulated society face. Firearms in Amish country. A tradition at odds with regulations. The Amish culture relating to firearms may not be what one would expect, given the perception of the group as little more than a league of pacifists. Though you will not find tactical gear or high-tech gun safes in their homes, most Amish households own hunting rifles, many of which are unregistered and fall outside the formal realm of modern firearms law. This is not because they are bloodthirsty or rebellious. It's simply out of a fundamental necessity to protect livestock from predators, as well as to provide food through hunting. In this frame of reference, a rifle will be an almost indispensable tool, as a hammer and plow are their livelihood or survival. Amish guns are usually sturdy, often handed down, and highly maintained, indicating the Amish value of useful, long-lasting possessions. However, widespread practice of neglecting firearm registration, treated as unnecessary meddling by the authorities, puts such a large number of Amish armed owners in potentially precarious legal standings. This noncompliance isn't born of defiance, but a desire to stick to established family practices, prioritizing tradition over bureaucratic processes. For example, an ongoing investigation conducted in 2019 in rural Ohio helped to expose the extensive number of unregistered firearms in the Amish communities, most of which were kept for hunting purposes. It raises a point of conflict between deeply established cultural practices and modern legal requirements in terms of enforcing regulations that clash with long-standing traditions. The position makes it a very challenging test for law enforcement and policymakers to ensure the balancing act between cultural practices and ensuring public safety, as well as the rule of law. Amish healthcare. Symbiosis of tradition and legality. Healthcare also reflects their attitude toward government, a distance from it. Amish medicine cabinets are not at all like the population's medicine cabinets. Most of their prescription drugs consist of herbal remedies, homebrew, and traditional healing, which in most cases don't meet modern medical requirements. The family's cupboard for most Amish households is more akin to pharmaceutical use, utilizing brewed teas and homegrown herbs along with time-tested recipes passed down from the family. Amazingly, many of these homebrewed potions work well. Though these treatments occasionally appear to work, they do not go through the same scientific testing and then approval by today's medical regulatory organizations, like the FDA. Things become even more confusing when some Amish communities have unregistered medical professionals. These are individuals who have learned how to practice by serving apprenticeships and practicing-based learning rather than formal education and certification as physicians. Their practice of medicine without a license walks a legal tightrope, especially when thinking about the sale of such home remedies. Federal laws strictly regulate health claims for untested treatments, putting individuals selling such remedies at risk of legal trouble. Further complicating the Amish's relationship with public health officials is their stand on vaccinations. Many communities have opted to be exempt from vaccination programs due to religious and personal beliefs, something that can spark major public health concerns during outbreaks of diseases. Their emergency care is, too, complex, as some Amish families believe in community-based care against hospital treatment. This reflects a desire for autonomy and adherence to religious belief, but also poses potential risks, especially when children are involved. The Amish approach to health care is an interesting example of tension between tradition, religious belief, and modern legal and medical standards. It therefore calls for a detailed observation of the risks as well as the benefits offered by traditional and modern methods towards healthcare, which calls for their culturally sensitive approaches to public health and safety laws. Amish moonshine, a traditional brew with modern legal ramifications. As much as the Amish are known as a people who stay away from alcohol, an interesting and sometimes illegal tradition of homemade wines, ciders, and moonshines exists within certain communities. This isn't mass production, but microbrewing using traditional family recipes, using fruits from family orchards and grains from previous harvests. This craft brewing, as traditional as it is, outright violates contemporary alcohol licensing laws. In 2020, Ohio police during a rural bust discovered a secret operation, revealing that home-brewed moonshine was being manufactured and distributed in an Amish community. This is no organized crime outfit, but a system of sharing and provision for the performance of religious rites within an informal local arrangement. The drivers are not for pecuniary gains, but in keeping tradition and promoting communal harmony. These are impressive. However, on the methods applied, the use of traditional techniques and equipment that most craft brewers could be envious of. The health risk to the consumer, though, is critical as there's no testing or regulation. The legal consequences for brewing and distributing untaxed booze are serious. They can involve very heavy fines as well as incarceration. Still, in tight Amish communities where the older culture frequently supersedes contemporary rules and regulations, this danger may seem like a reasonable trade-off for continuing their life. The clandestine nature of these activities succeeds because trust and discretion are more powerful than the physical barrier itself in preserving a tradition that is traditionally at odds with modern laws. It also demonstrates how the sheer differences of a cultural practice are not able to be covered under a single piece of legislation, and how a more nuanced approach is really needed when enforcing in communities unique in their social structure and deeply held traditions. Amish transportation, an impact on modern infrastructure from the buggy. The horse-drawn buggy is the most iconic symbol of the Amish and poses a distinctive challenge to modern infrastructure and governance. Most car owners worry about vehicular registration fees and license plate renewals, while the Amish run their buggies out of this body of regulations. This seemingly innocent transportation choice presents immense headaches for local governments. The steel wheels and horses' hooves cause substantial damage to public roads, incurring costly repairs, often exceeding thousands of dollars. The Amish view their buggies as essential tools, not vehicles subject to government oversight, thus avoiding bureaucratic processes. This creates a financial burden on non-Amish taxpayers who ultimately fund road maintenance. Some counties dedicate significant portions of their road budgets to repairing damage caused by horse-drawn buggies. This has led to friction between Amish communities and local authorities. Authorities contend that the Amish should bear some of the cost of maintaining public roads because they are using the roads. But the Amish counter that their buggies leave less of a carbon footprint than motor vehicles, and registration or fees would impinge on their religious rights and practices. This is just one example that highlights the need for balancing the demand of various communities with the expectations of keeping public infrastructure. It forces the rethinking of funding models on road maintenance and a more pragmatic approach to accepting communities with unusual transportation needs and practices. Amish dairy, raw milk, regulations, and a legal loophole. The Amish dairy industry, with its famous cheese and milk products, represents an interesting legal battle. Although the majority of the public ingests pasteurized milk, most Amish farmers follow historic customs, obtaining the milk unprocessed from their cows. The interstate transport of this liquid is legally banned under federal mandate and is subject to treatment close to that handed out for criminals. It limits Amish operators trying to produce milk the old-fashioned way while providing an avenue for commerce. One effective response from them is cow share schemes. These programs allow individuals to purchase shares in a cow, effectively circumventing regulations that restrict milk sales. This legal loophole allows some Amish farmers to bypass interstate transport restrictions. The patchwork of state regulations governing raw milk sales further complicates the situation. 43 states have unique rules, ranging from farm-only sales to complete bans. This creates a complex landscape for Amish farmers navigating legal requirements. The financial risks are high, too, with fines going as high as $100,000 for violators. One such case involved an Amish farmer whose artisanal cheese crossed state lines, which attracted a huge fine. Many of the Amish farmers believe raw milk products offer health benefits that no conventional product can rival, and many non-Amish consumers agree. This has created underground milk clubs that further illustrate the extent that consumers will go to gain access to these products. Amish farmers have learned to navigate this legal maze and know what can be sold where, and sometimes even how to creatively label things to avoid regulations. This is a testament to the lengths communities will go to maintain their traditions and cultural practices within the context of modern legal constraints. It also suggests the difficulties behind the uniform application of regulations to variant agricultural practices, along with the issue of conflict between traditional and modern food manufacturing techniques and laws of food security. Amish workshops of woodworking, a traditional craft, and modern safety guidelines. Amish woodworking workshops starkly contrast conventional practices with modern security guidelines. That is, those handcrafted articles of furniture at these workshops are of immense quality, even though the methods implemented there often find themselves violating any modern workplace standard of safety. The workshops themselves often lack safety guards on power tools, and the apprenticeship system, while producing skilled craftsmen, often clashes with child labor laws. The workshops frequently use modified power tools, sometimes air-powered and run by diesel compressors, which further violates safety regulations. Accident data is scarce, as incidents are often handled internally within the community. The workshops sometimes shut down due to the inspectors, but often reopen with little change because the Amish perceive the regulations as an obstacle in keeping their traditions and passing them to the future generations. To them, the risk of losing their cultural practices is much greater than using unguarded tools. This poses a dilemma, either to keep their traditional craft or conform to the contemporary safety standards. The Amish have valued keeping their cultural identity. The shop's survival, operating in a manner that is not technically compliant, exemplifies the strength of reputation and word-of-mouth marketing and, sometimes, operating outside the spotlight. The Amish have found ways to succeed by maintaining their traditional ways of doing things and selling their fine products in the modern marketplace. This shows the inherent tension between cultural preservation and the enforcement of modern safety and labor regulations, thus requiring a more nuanced approach to regulating industries that operate with unique cultural practices and traditions.